And welcome to A Better Morning. I'm Heather Klein. We debate the trending topics in sports from a sports betting point of view. Let's welcome today's panel. Award-winning host, the fantasy exec, Corey Parson. Host of Her Story in the Making, Britt's Fantasy Blitz, and co-host of Lightning Round, Britt Flynn. Fantasy Alarm lead NFL analyst and host of Fantasy Fiasco, Andrew Coop Cooper. And senior managing editor of Fantasy Alarm and host of the Quick Out Fantasy Football Show, the Fantasy Football Show, and Fantasy Alarm DFS shows, John and Pemba. Sorry about that, John. How's everyone doing today?
I'm doing good. Listen, I like the new names of those shows there, Britt and Coop. I haven't heard those yet, so I knew they were being workshopped. I heard some different trials, but those are nice show names.
I don't have one, John.
Corey, we can work on it. We can work on one for you if you want.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get it together. We had Tommy Roush on it. He's the show name master.
I mean, those seriously. I heard the Britt's Fantasy Blitz. I was like, that's nice.
You know, if you type Fantasy Fiasco into Twitter, my Twitter account's the only thing that comes up. So the branding's done on that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Not a lot of people using
the brand
Fiasco
is real
in the Twitter world.
It is.
Yeah,
get the t-shirts made, people.
Get them up.
All right, let's get to it, guys. Dak Prescott had a career high in the worst way possible, in interceptions at 15 last season. He declared yesterday that he will have less than 10 interceptions this upcoming season. The Dallas quarterback confidently said, "I know who I am, and you can go back and take away half of those off drops." Do you agree? And what's the over-under on interceptions for the veteran QB? Corey, you're up first.
Yeah, let me start this one because every time the so-called franchise quarterback, put the fantasy executive back on the screen, every time the so-called franchise quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys gets in front of a microphone and opens his mouth, I more and more start to wonder about this guy. So this is a man who has an average annual salary of $40 million a year, going up to the podium and blaming his teammates because he's thrown 25 interceptions in the past 28 games. So how many of tips or drop passes do you think those is, Dak? More than half of them? Dude, hold yourself accountable for your horrific play. You're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It is your job to lead this team, not point fingers. This guy's a major problem.
Yeah, listen, I have to agree with you there, Corey. Take a little bit of accountability. He's out there.
Go ahead, John.
Good. We got you.
I felt like I lost myself here a second. Yeah, so I all of a sudden my computer froze. I was like, oh, God, I think I lost it. All right, so listen, I agree with you. You got to take some accountability in your own play. This is a guy that's had 10 or more interceptions now in 4 of the last 6 seasons as well. And sure, they have a new offensive coordinator. Maybe he's got a little bit of offensive weapons now, bringing in Brandon Cooks. You look at the wide receiver 2 that they had on their team last year. Really, CeeDee Lamb was the go-to guy for them. But ultimately, it's a decision-making and that he's got to deal with himself because this is a guy that's been prone to interceptions over the last handful of seasons.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about this situation, and as a fantasy football guy, it's that I don't like anything I'm hearing from this Dallas Cowboys team. First, you have Mike McCarthy talking about letting Kellen Moore go, saying that he was too much of a gunslinger. He was scoring too many points. It was making the defense tired. And guess what? That can be a real phenomenon. But in fantasy football, I don't care. Then McCarthy says they want to run more. Now Dak Prescott says he's going to be more conservative, take care of the football better. That's honestly not what I want to see. Interceptions, I really don't care about them for fantasy, and that's what we care about most here on this show, betting as well. But I don't want to see Dak take care of the football. I don't want to see them be a run-heavy offense. I want the gunslinging Cowboys of yesteryear. Jerry Jones better step in and make sure this team is fun.
I just think that it's really funny that nobody's talking about Josh Allen's interceptions or Patrick Mahomes' interceptions, which were nearly just as bad. And if you look at the analytics, just under half of Dak's interceptions last year could have been blamed on receivers, either tipping them into the defender's hands, not running the correct routes, or dropping the ball after contact. When you're playing with Noah Brown and Kevontae Turpin, you don't exactly have the strongest weapons. Now that he has a competent wide receiver too in Brandon Cooks and a healthy Michael Gallup, that should cut down on turnovers dramatically. I also don't think that his thumb was completely healed, to be honest, and that affects your control. The defense also put them in bad situations at times, and playing hero ball without a good receiving core is a recipe for disaster. I think 10 is a good line to set for the upcoming season. And let's just bring this back. And when Mahomes throws 12, we'll see where we are.
Yeah, but Dak threw like 15 in like 6 games or something crazy like that. You notice every time people talk about Dak Prescott, they make excuses. You know what I'm saying? It might have been his thumb. You know what I mean? Or it was the weapons. Mind you, yesterday, what did we say? Mac Jones got the worst weapons ever. Nobody ever talked about Mac Jones' weapons. Dak weapons is fine. He makes $40 million a year to be a franchise quarterback. That's when you step up and you take accountability. You're supposed to make your team better. Patrick Mahomes throw interceptions. Patrick Mahomes go to the Super Bowl. And listen, Josh Allen, I'm not a Josh Allen guy either. I don't like his turnovers. But you notice you bring up Dak, and then it's thumb, weapons. How about everybody else? How about Dak Prescott? He's the one. He is the one that's throwing the interceptions that's ruining this once proud franchise. And Coop, you make a lot of good points, but Dallas has to slow the game down so their defense can take over. But
I think you missed the point where, from the analytical perspective, the analytics actually say that over half of those were caused by the receivers. And analytics backs that.
I looked at it, and Britt is right on that. Dalton Schultz definitely had the assist on a few of these. He's out there tipping them like Larry Bird tipping a rebound to Kevin McHale. So
he does have the highest projected interception total on DraftKings Sportsbook. It's tied with Allen, 13 and a half interceptions this year.
The thing about it is, women lie, men lie, numbers don't. The interceptions don't say tip by Noah Brown. The interceptions don't say Dalton Schultz dropped this one or it was supposed to be a slant. It say Dak Prescott interception, Cowboys lose. I don't want that.
Are analytics not numbers?
Analytics, listen, I'm an eye test guy, old school. You know what I'm saying? The eye test. The eye test say the quarterback throw interceptions, come to the podium and blame everybody else.
Yeah, last point on this one, I will say that, Britt, I'm with you. But it's not that Dak Prescott needs less scrutiny. I think Josh Allen needs more.
Yeah, there you go. I agree with that as well. He will have it this year because people are starting to talk about Allen and these interceptions. But 3 things can be right. Josh Allen throw interceptions and so do Dak Prescott.
The thing with Josh Allen as well, people were saying, well, his elbow wasn't right. It was his UCL. Nobody brought up Dak's thumb not being right, but yet Josh Allen gets a pass and Dak doesn't. It's hypocritical because the Cowboys are America's team. They're under the most scrutiny, and everybody loves to poop on them.
Self-branded as America's team.
The quarterback, now the NFL films did that. The quarterback is a problem. He threw too many interceptions. The reason why they went with him in the first place was because he didn't turn the ball over. And listen, since that injury, 2 major red flags. Not only is the interceptions going up, but the yards per attempt is going down every season. He's not the same player he was before the injury.
So Patrick Mahomes' yards per attempt went down last season because he didn't have the weapons.
Super Bowl MVP.
But I'm saying, if you're saying that his yards per attempt went down, that's not on him.
Well, maybe Brandon Cooks will fix all the problems.
Quarterback is on.
All right. Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson was announced as the #1 player in the Madden 24's 99 Club. This elite club recognizes the best of the best in the NFL for each position. Let's break down the top 10 of the following positions: QB, wide receiver, running back, and tight end. Today, we'll start with the dynamic receivers. Is there a player that should not be in the top 10? And who did they miss the mark on? John, you're first.
Yeah, listen, I'm looking at this list here now. Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Amari Cooper are your top 10 Madden-ranked wide receivers here. When I looked at the list, I thought seeing that Amari Cooper down cracking that top 10 was a little bit surprising to me. Especially when you look at some of the younger wide receivers that I think maybe have a little bit more potential, I would say. Garrett Wilson coming off of a tremendous rookie season, Chris Olave coming off of a great rookie season. I would have expected those guys to maybe crack that bottom half of the top 10 lists, sort of projecting them forward here instead of having Amari Cooper, who's coming off of a good year in Cleveland, no doubt, and obviously could have a great year again if Deshaun Watson sort of takes that next step forward in his return to the league. But I don't have too much of an issue with the list as it is. I mean, maybe A.J. Brown deserves to be a little bit higher. I mean, talk about a season that he's coming off of and that kind of offense and what his skill set has sort of proven to be during the course of his career. If he could have just stayed on the field for a full season in Tennessee, he may have put up a lot more similar numbers to what we saw out of him last year in terms of yardage and maybe even touchdowns. So overall, I don't have too much of a problem with the list. I think Justin Jefferson deserves to be 99. Maybe Jamar Chase could be moved up a little bit from 94, but overall, the list is pretty strong to me.
Jeez, dude, you give a guy Howard Bender's chair and he
goodness.
pulls a you give a guy Howard Bender's chair and he pulls a full Howard Bender and uses like 15 minutes of my time, dude. Unbelievable. Like, bring the clock back to 45. So this list, anybody that's played Madden before, yeah, there you go. Let's get that. Bump me up to 2 minutes. I'm good with the clock now. Anyone that's played Madden before is familiar with what they do, which is over adjust the veterans up, and they under account for the younger players. The fact that they have Justin Jefferson at 1 is they had to do it against their will because they don't like doing that. When you look around at what's actually happening in this league, DeAndre Hopkins, with what he got paid and with his situation, he's not 7. Terry McLaurin's not 8 either, honestly. He's never had a 1,200-yard season. A guy like CeeDee Lamb has done exactly what he should have done to become an elite guy in the league, progressing from the first to second to third year, where last year he had like 1,350 yards, something Terry McLaurin's never even come close to. Like, why isn't if this list were going to be true, the younger guys like CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle were on it, but Madden is always going to pander to some of these guys, so it's always going to be the older guys at the top.
I'm so glad that you said CeeDee Lamb because that was one of my picks, but I didn't want to be branded as a homer. But I agree with you. I think that Terry McLaurin is too high on this list. His win rate versus man was only ranked 26th in the league, and his total route win rate was ranked 51st last season. He's talented. We all get that. And maybe they're cutting him some slack due to the quarterbacks he's played with, but still, there are better receivers that should have been included in the top 10. I get that they didn't want to include 2 Dolphins on this list, but Jalen Waddle should have absolutely been in the top 10. His route win rate actually ranked 10th in 2022. His YAC ranked 10th, and his yards per route run ranked 4th. Not to mention, he played with a backup quarterback basically 5 games out of the season. I know people don't want to give Tua his flowers because that destroys the narrative, but they should, and Waddle absolutely deserves top 10 placement.
So DeAndre Hopkins should not be in this list. Terry McLaurin shouldn't be in this list. I probably would use Lamb. Probably go Lamb as a replacement, and I'll go with my guy T. Higgins as a replacement. And then you'll have 2 Bengals on there, but the Bengals got the best quarterback in Joe Burrow, so I don't have no issue with that. These Madden rankings is just something to get conversations going in a time where conversations are dead. The players chime in on their rankings and stuff like that. It's really much to do about nothing. It's kind of like something to keep controversy going. So yeah, McLaurin is not prime time yet, and Hopkins is past his prime. He's
pre-washed, as you would say.
Yeah,
so that's good news for Treylon Burks.
The jeans category. I will say this, Corey, you pointed out when you brought up T. Higgins, something that John and Pemba and I have been harping on all offseason. One of the biggest things to take advantage of in fantasy football is the quote-unquote wide receiver 2. Because the reality in fantasy football is that 5 teams had 10 of the top 20 wide receivers, right? Like, there's no reason that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase can't be on this list. There's no reason that Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown can't be on the list. The only reason is one of them is quote-unquote a wide receiver 2 on his own team, and they decide that Terry McLaurin, they can take his ability and his value in a vacuum and forget about his quarterback and forget about all that. But you can't take the Devonta Smith in a vacuum and have him on there. So there's a lot of that going on here where I'd have guys over these guys. We didn't even mention DK Metcalf, a guy who has had a top 7 season and in a vacuum,
real.
DK Metcalf, I mean, physical freak. So,
right.
Yeah, I think it's like the Tecmo Bowl situation. It's done just to be like, oh, I can get this guy and like he's the cheat code in my game. And if I play him, then I'm never going to lose.
They also like the promotion of it all too, like you were saying before, like
right.
Coop was mentioning and Corey. And now it becomes controvery, right? And athletes are talking about it. People will ask them, oh, what did you think about your Madden rating? And then it's it's a sound clip and it promotes the game and all that stuff.
Yeah, wait till
I ain't played the game in a long time. I used to be nice back in the day.
Yeah, wait until they come out with the quarterback rankings. That's when it's always evident. I mean, Tom Brady was like QB2 every single year, even when he was 44 years old. It's like, how high do you have to adjust that guy's throwing skill to make up for his rushing skill, which is probably like an 11, and I guarantee when this comes out, you'll see guys like Matt Stafford on there. Whoever has been an MVP or a Super Bowl winner last couple of years, that's the top 10 and they don't care.
SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey got high upon his soapbox at the SEC Media Days to air his grievances and misguided concern for student collegiate athletes about their name, image, and likeness, otherwise known as NIL. Sankey said the following: "The reality is only Congress can fully address the challenges facing college athletics. Whether congressional action is achievable is a matter of debate, much debate. Do you feel there is a need for a national standard NIL policy, or is Sankey being dramatic?" Britt, you're up first.
He's being dramatic as hell. He's calling for federal legislation, but the NCAA itself has its own standard and overrules any state law on the books. So there's already a standard of uniformity within the NCAA itself. If the NCAA is already overriding state laws and punishing schools that don't abide by their laws, even when it is legal within their state, why doesn't the NCAA come up with a uniform resolution themselves instead of getting Congress involved? Trying to get something done on Capitol Hill is as useless as teats on a boar. And a federal judge has already eaten into Title IX. So what makes us think that anything that the federal government is going to do is going to help the NIL? If Sankey has a problem, get together with the top commissioners and figure it out. Stop putting it on the federal government when the NCAA earns over $1 billion a year. Y'all have the resources. Get it done.
Yeah, I'll quote the great Howard Bender on this one, who's not with us today, when I say that communism is a great idea on paper. With this setup, Sankey, his mind is in the right place, and it should go even further. Like, his thought is, let's make it all even. Let's bring down this legislature, have Congress make it even, because right now the states have all their different rules, and all the rules for each state is, let's make sure the homeboys, our team, gets as much money as they need, right? So he wants it all to be even. I say it should be even further, where it's not just based on who has the best football program. Maybe, just maybe, it could go all the way to the point where maybe it's based on who has the best education, and the kids are actually getting an education. I know it never will, and it's all about football, but in a perfect world, that's what it would boil down to.
I don't think it's misguided at all to think that there needs to be some kind of regulation in an NIL marketplace. So you mean to tell me that corporate entities and state legislators, should be able to dictate and do the job that recruiters once did? So let's just have a hypothetical situation. Let's say Duke got let's just say Zion got $3 million from Nike to go to Duke. Do you think that's correct? Basically, that could end up causing a legendary head coach to leave his position if something like that was to happen. But then just a couple of years later, it's okay for Walmart and Tyson's to dictate their corporate dollars to push a student athlete to their school. I like the idea of name, image, and likeness, but let's not make it the Wild West. There needs to be some kind of regulations, whether it's the NCAA or Capitol Hill.
Yeah, I listen. I think one of the things that you just mentioned there, it was on in the picture last year. You saw Jackson State land Travis Hunter, Deion Sanders was the coach of Jackson State working for Barstool Sports. Travis Hunter gets a big Barstool Sports NIL deal, and all of a sudden he's going over there. There can't be a coincidence there, right? That they're paying big money now, basically buying athletes to go to the schools that they're sort of promoting. I'm also of this mindset though of I'm anti-regulation. If these players can go out there and get as much money as they can, who are we to stop them? I'm sure Marcus Lattimore would have loved to have an NIL deal back in the day before he ruined his knee and wasn't able to make the money he was going to make in the NFL. So as athletes with these schools that are making money off of them, they should be able to make as much money without regulation going wherever they want to the highest bidder.
Nice pull on Marcus Lattimore. How about that? That dude's knee was turned around the wrong way.
And I agree, but I think that the NCAA already has the power to put this regulation on and make everything uniform, because in their whatever thing that it says the association has been clear and maintains that schools must adhere to NCAA legislation when it conflicts to permissive state laws. In other words, if a state law permits certain institutional action and the NCAA legislation prohibits the same actions, institutions must follow NCAA legislation. So if they already have the power and the tiebreaker over these policies, why not just make it uniform across the board for every single state and every single school?
So I ask you this, Britt, do you think the way NIL is currently run, that is proper?
I mean, it's a mess right now, but this is what I'm saying that the NCAA needs to do. And you brought up that Tyson and Walmart have been throwing out money. Arkansas is 7th in the SEC in NIL deals. We're not throwing money around.
Doing good enough.
But they're not. It just negates your point. They're not throwing money around. It depends.
But here's also the thing too. Let's look at the dynamic of all of a sudden you're going to start dudes like Spencer Rattler. You're going to start having 26, 27-year-old men playing college quarterback because it's an easier and better lifestyle than being a backup in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot going on. It needs to be this. I agree, John. I'm not a regulations guy either, but it needs to be regulations in this marketplace because just a couple years ago, Nike couldn't pay Zion $3 million to go to Duke. Now that's cool. Then Reggie Bush need a Heisman Trophy back. The Fab Five need a banner put back up there. You know what I'm saying?
I think that Dustin makes a good point in the chat before. Sorry, Coop, to cut you off, but let them make whatever they can in college. We all raged yesterday about running back contracts. Stay in school and then get the bag there. I mean, because we know that the NFL is not going to do the right thing and pay them appropriately once they become pros.
Or at that point, you kind of almost look like it's college athletics. I mean, obviously the NIL deal is allowing them to sort of put a free focus on college athletics. But look what the NBA did. You can now skip college, go to the G League if you're considered, I think, as a top 50 basketball player in the country and get paid to play in the G League, the Elite League. So, these NIL deals are at least putting more good players in college so they can play and sort of build up that league. Otherwise, a lot of these guys in the NBA, at least, were starting to skip college, go play overseas, go play in the Elite League, and kind of wait till the NBA comes calling for them.
All I have to say is this, that the current system, as messed up as it is, it's better than the previous system of, the players went to whatever team had the most Xboxes in the locker room, and the guy's mom was all of a sudden driving a Cadillac that just appeared out of nowhere. So this system, as flawed as it is, at least it's above the table.
All right, guys, it is now that time. For Dealer's Choice, give us your bet of the day. It can be on today's MLB action, futures odds, or prop bets. Coop, what do you have for us?
So me being a football guy, I'm going back to football. I know it's still early for these, but at least this one isn't a season-long bet you got to hold on to. It's a week one bet. I'm looking around at these week one games, and, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. But with one of them, the uncertainty works in our favor because I'm looking at this Jaguars-Colts game week one. And the Jaguars, to everybody in the world that watched football last year, that has eyeballs or has access to Britt's analytics, knows that the Jaguars are the far superior team. And the Colts probably are a better team for the short term if Gardner Minshew is the QB, right? So let's say Gardner is the QB for week one. That spread's 3.5. The other option is to bring in a rookie that's never played a single NFL game. There are questions about his passing ability, and the line should move the other way if Anthony Richardson is declared the quarterback. So right now, I'll take the Jags at 3.5, and we'll see where that goes, because come actual week 1, that line might be looking at 7.
This is this is very fascinating, because I actually was going to talk about this game this morning too, right? But I changed my mind and was going to go with something else. So now I'm all over the place. But I want to address that, well, what you said, because I would take that Colts plus 3.5 now. And if it goes up to 7, I would definitely grab it then. But here's another, but that's neither here nor there. But one thing, I don't have a bet per se for this program today, but I bet that Saquon Barkley on the Wednesday before the season start is going to show up the Giants camp, so that direct deposit game check hit his bank account, and he go ahead and and play for that $10 million he's going to make this season. Because everybody is thinking like Saquon Barkley got to move back to 5H now, and he didn't get this long-term deal. Saquon Barkley in his rookie year made $21 million. Now, this year, Joe Burrow, MVP candidate, is going to make $4 million. Trevor Lawrence is going to make $5 million. So where is the discrepancy in the running back pay scale? So my bet is this: Saquon Barkley will be in camp ready to go and play for that $10 million.
Yeah, my bet of the day here today, we're going to go Baltimore Orioles team total over 4.5. Dodgers throwing righty Michael Grove to the mound. Lefty's an absolutely hammered Grove on the season. He's got a 586 slugging percentage and a 434 WOBA against left-handed hitting, and the Orioles have 7 left-handed bats in their lineup today.
So I'm going to go with the Tigers versus Royals under 8.5 total runs at plus 100 odds on BetMGM. Detroit ranks 28th in average runs per game, and Kansas City is right behind them at 29th. If you can get this at plus money, I'm smashing it. Not even going to go into the rest of it. Both these teams suck. Take the under.
So, Corey, you like the Colts to hang with the Jaguars week 1? That I just feel
I like that. I think it's a 3-point game. I take the 3.5 with the Jaguars, and I want Richardson to be the quarterback. I think Richardson is dynamic.
So I want him to be the quarterback too, 100%. It's better for fantasy football. It's better for football. It's way more exciting. I just think when I look at a team that is on the way up and possibly even fully built and ready to compete in the Jaguars versus a team that just had to do their worst on purpose to get their quarterback, these ones usually don't go to the team that's bringing in the rookie quarterback.
Who's home, Coop? Is it Jacksonville or
Indy? It is an Indy. But
yeah, I would take the points. I would take Indy with the points as well.
Y'all are crazy.
A 3.5 home dog in week 1. I mean, the that's going to come down to 3.
Trevor Lawrence going to teach you guys a lesson.
I love Trevor Lawrence, but I'm just saying,
it's not.
Let's not put Jacksonville.
Colts got much worse this offseason, especially the defense.
I think the head coach and the quarterback make the team better.
Okay, guys, that was today's edition of A Better Morning. Thank you to Corey, Britt, Coop, and John. Make sure you check out Moose and Keith at 10 a.m., also Lightning Round at 1, Alarm Fantasy Football at 2 p.m. Eastern, and Tour Junkies previewing the Open Championship for golf bettings and DFS at 7 p.m.